Hello, all. Welcome back to the Brighter Black Futures podcast. I'm your host, Bisa, and as per usual, I have a great and jam-packed show for you all. Lots of great information will be shared. But before I get into all of that, I want to share an update with all of you. I started the first season of my Brighter Black Futures podcast, the Brighter Black Futures podcast, a few weeks ago. And now today is episode 14. And I'm here to tell you all, update you on the fact that this episode will be the final one of the season. I'm going to take the summer off to rest and also focus on the many vendor markets I'll be going to over the next few months and getting my courses going and all the things. And also, I'll have time to put together some really great interviews and content so I can come back super duper strong, even stronger than this season in season two. So please be sure to come back in September because I'll be back then with some more great shows for you. But today is the begin. Well, right now is the beginning of the final podcast of this season, and let's get into it. So, what's the topic for today? I wanted to end on a note of joy and happiness and things that make me feel really good. And one of the things I'm super passionate about and been really leaning into heavily these days is reading everything I can find, lots of Black literature. And that brings me so much joy, Black joy, in fact. So, I wanted to share some of that good energy for you guys and maybe give you some recommendations for some great summer reading. So, now with all that said, let's start this show. And now it's time for the upliftment segment of the show. This is the segment where I share a quote that absolutely inspires me and I hope will inspire and resonate with all of you, and also one that ties in with the theme of the show. And today we're focusing on Black literature and books and great reading. And so I picked a quote from a writer that I absolutely admire and totally love her work. And that is the great writer Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And since it's a long quote, I'm going to take a moment to read this because I don't want to miss even a little bit of it out because it's too good to not quote properly. So here it is. Many stories matter. Stories have been used to dispossess and to malign, but stories can also be used to empower and to humanize. Stories can break the dignity of a people, but stories can also repair their broken dignity. Isn't that beautiful? It's so good. I need to read it again. Let's go. Many stories matter. Stories have been used to dispossess and to malign, but stories can also be used to empower and to humanize. Stories can break the dignity of a people, but stories can also repair that broken dignity. I feel that quote speaks for itself, but why that quote inspires me is because she acknowledges the fact that stories have been told and can be told that will tear down people and make them feel worse about themselves. And we, as marginalized people, Black people, racialized people, know that this is so true. And stories also can uplift and empower and allow you to see yourself in a brand new way and your people in a brand new way. And that is what I love about the books that I'm going to share with all of you today. So I got a great list of books for you. I can't wait to share. Let's get into it. So I'm going to talk about some of my fave books of all time. And this first one right here probably is in the top 3. It's hard for me to categorize which one I like better, but this one is definitely in the top 3. And that is If Beale Street Could Talk by the incomparable James Baldwin. Now, if you know and watch, or you're an avid film watcher, you know that this book was made into a film adaptation, I think a few years ago, by Barry Jenkins. I can't remember the year. And he did such a good job of having all the feelings, putting all the feelings that are evoked by the story into the film. It was so moving and well done. And the book is deeply moving. It's a love story to two young people who fall in love living in New York City, and they have a run-in with law enforcement that changes the trajectory of their relationship and has to have their whole family involved to help them get through it. And it's a gorgeous story. I don't want to say any more than that because I don't want to ruin it for you. It's a gorgeous story, and James's prose, as always, is immaculate. So if you've not yet read it, I strongly advise you to do so. It is a great book. And if you're not a reader, watch the film. It's pretty close. Not as good as far as I'm concerned, but pretty close. But definitely this book is my number one, absolute number one pick if you are looking for a great book to read over the next few months. If Beale Street Could Talk is chef's kiss good. It's that good of a book. Strongly and highly recommend. And the second book I want to tell you all about is by Lola Akinmade Ackerstrom. It is a beautifully told story about 3 women who are all connected to the same man who happens to be Swedish. And the book is called In Every Mirror Her Face is Black. And what Ms. Ackstrom does in this book is fabulous. She gives you a mix of race and class analysis and commentary, and also talks about the complexity of being an immigrant in a foreign land. And it's gorgeous, gorgeously done and so gripping. I was so intrigued by all the characters. I was thinking about them for weeks after. And lucky for me and you, if you choose to read this book, she, the author, decided to write a sequel, and it's called Everything Is Not Enough. But you need to read the book I'm talking about first. It's called In Every Mirror, She's Black. And the three main characters in the book, who are all tied to a man named Yanni, are Brittany, the woman who ends up being his wife and living a very lavish lifestyle that ends up leaving her feeling very trapped, and a woman named Kemi, who is doing gangbusters at her job as a marketer in America. She's a Nigerian woman, and she ends up immigrating to Sweden after being discovered by Yanni's company or noticed, headhunted. And the last woman is a woman named Muna, who's a refugee from East Africa who ends up in a refugee center that he funds, and their lives all intertwined beautifully in the book. And it's such a great social commentary and also great storytelling, and you totally should read it. It is by far the best book I've read in 2024, and I can't, again, recommend it highly enough. So check it out. And I'm just starting the sequel, and it's already a nail biter, and I'm so excited. So be sure to check this book out if you like those themes. It is great. And again, I can't say enough about it. Now, the third book I want to tell you about is by an author I just recently discovered. Her name is Onwe Nabuneli. I hope I said that properly. Probably didn't, but I tried my best. Lord help me. Anyway, the name of the book is Someday Maybe, and it was narrated by a woman by the name of Ajwa Ando. Listen to me. This book, stellar, such good writing. It is a story of a woman who loses her husband to suicide, and the grieving process or healing process as she grieves, and how her family and friends rise to support her. It is fabulous. It's definitely a painful read for sure in lots of ways, but also there are many times I was walking on the street because I listened to the audiobook, more on that in a second, and I'd bawl out laughing because her acerbic wit and sarcasm, fabulous. So really great writing, a good balance of the happy and the sad, the breath of emotion you feel is beautiful. And if you're an audiobook fan like me, and even if you're not, I encourage you to listen to the audiobook to read this one, because the voice acting of the narrator, I cannot say enough. Adra Ando outdid herself. It was immaculate. I will probably listen to this book again just to hear her voice and hear her tell the story. So beautifully done. And yeah. So if you're looking for a super interesting story that is well told, really good writing, voice acting on 10 if you're into audiobooks, that talks about the intersection of race, class, cultural difference, heavy topic like suicide, because some people like heavy books, that also has a good dose of humor, this is a book for you. It's a beautifully told story. And again, recommended for anyone who's interested in those kind of themes. And the final book I want to recommend to you is by a woman by the name of Tayari Jones. She's written tons of books, but this book, this here book, was on President Obama's list of the top books he read in 2018, and the book is called An American Marriage. Again, a love story, of course, or love stories in a way. It's about a couple who start off really well. They're doing good in their marriage. They're a year and a half in, and then he is wrongfully accused of a crime. And then everything goes pear-shaped. And basically, it was what it's showing you is the difficulty they have in maintaining their connection while he's away, and what can happen when that kind of thing happens. People are separated against their will, how it can totally change the trajectory of their lives and their love for each other. It is beautifully told. Again, really well written. There are moments when I want to cuss people in the book, cuss some of the characters that can you organize yourself and behave differently, but they didn't. They didn't always. But even so, I liked them. I understood that what they're going through was so incredibly hard and difficult, and that they were all doing the best they could. And it's well told from different people's views. So the three main characters who are entwined in what ends up being a love triangle, you hear the story from their various perspectives, and really well done. And I think even-handed, you get insight into each character, so you can love each character, but probably dislike some things they do as well. And it's a really rich story. Again, highly recommend. I am a scaredy cat, so in the beginning, before I learned how much he was going to share about the crime he was accused of, I was like, so hard for me to get through this. But once I got through that, I was smooth sailing. So if you're afraid of cat like me, don't worry. You don't get too many details of the crime itself. It's more about the dynamic that's created between the three main characters. And again, super well told. And I understand why President Obama said, read this here book, because it's that good. All right. And I also highly recommend. So 2 stars from me and President Obama. 2 thumbs up for this book by Tayari Jones. Again, it's called An American Marriage. And you should check it out. It also, if you care about such things, was picked for Oprah's book club. There you go. All right. So that's my roundup of my absolute fave books that I read this year. And one, it's an oldie but a goodie, one of my top ones of all time that I think you guys should check out and highly recommend that you read. And of course, because I don't want to leave the kids out this summer, I've got some great recommendations for children so you can have them reading and learning all summer long. And maybe you'll even learn a thing or two from some of the suggestions that I have for you. So up first is a book called Brave Black First that was published in conjunction with curators at the Smithsonian, why can't I speak? Smithsonian Museum for African American History and Culture. It features the stories of 50 African American women who've made great contributions to history, people like Serena Williams, Harriet Tubman, Aretha Franklin, Michelle Obama, and more. And it's beautiful. I haven't read the entire book myself, but I've seen copies of it and paged through it, and it's magnifique. Totally a book that you should check out if you are interested in teaching your kids about African American history, particularly women's history, which isn't spoken about enough, in my opinion, anyway. Now, the second book I'd like to tell you about is The ABCs of Black History, again, African American history particularly, and it's written by Rio Cortez and Lauren Semner. It is a book that has rhyming text and lots of beautiful pictures and teaches kids about Black historical figures like Zora Neale Hurston, Malcolm X, and W.E. Du Bois, while also sharing important concepts with them, like P is for power and S is for science and soul. So your kids are learning great concepts, learning about great Black historical figures, and it's a fun and easy read for kids, and you should totally check it out. Now, the next book I want to talk to you about is all about Black Canadian history, and the book is called The Kids' Book of Black History in Canada, and it's by Rosemary Sadlier. This book chronicles Black life in Canada from 1604, when Matthew DaCosta arrived as an explorer, and goes all the way up to the Black Lives Matter movement. And it covers the enslavement of Black people in Canada, the arrival of the Black loyalists, the exodus of Blacks from Nova Scotia to Sierra Leone, the Underground Railroad, and the fight for civil rights. It also touches on racism in Canada, how it's affected Black people, and issues of representation. It's a great book. It covers everything, and it is juicy and filled with all kinds of goodness for your kids to learn and enjoy. So they understand that we didn't just arrive in Canada 5 minutes ago. We've been here for a long time, since 1604, in fact. And it's a great addition to any home library or school classroom. So definitely you should think about getting this one for your kids. Now, the next book I want to tell you about is The Underground Railroad, Next Stop Toronto. This book is by Adrian Shad, Afua Cooper, and Carolyn Smarts Frost. Now, this is a great book about the Underground Railroad, and if you don't know, and I think you probably do, the Underground Railroad is a term for the pathways and the network that was developed to help fugitive enslaved persons leave America and head to Canada across the border towards their freedoms. And also, fun fact, the Underground Railroad also went the other way, because there was indeed slavery in Nova Scotia, and people wanting to escape their enslavement in Nova Scotia also used the Underground Railroad to get back to the northern states. Aha. But anyway, I digress. The Underground Railroad Toronto is a book that shows you the pathways that these brave men and women and their children used to escape to freedom, and also gets into talking about the vibrant communities they created when they got here. So Toronto had a thriving Black community in the 1800s. They created organizations and support for the newcomers, and it's a beautiful book. You will learn a ton if you don't know this history, and it's a great book. I want to recommend to you is by David Olusoga, a Black British historian, and it's called Black and British: An Illustrated History, and it takes you through 1800 years of Black British history, starting in Roman times all the way up to the present. It is a must read for, I think, anyone, anywhere in the world, but particularly for British kids, perhaps, Black British kids who don't know this history. It answers questions like, when did the first Black people come to Britain? And who are the well-dressed kids in those Gregorian paintings? Things you want to know and should know to understand that Black people have roots in Britain for generations, not just since Windrush, as a lot of people believe. So check out the book. It is great. And there is an adult version of the book, Forgotten Black History, Black British History. Check that out too. if you're an adult reader, and read it with your kids and learn a ton about Blacks in Britain. The final book I want to tell you about is called A Place for Me, Stories of the Windrush Generation. This book features 12 stories from people of that generation. And if you don't know, the HMS Windrush landed in Britain in 1948, bringing with it the first set of Caribbean immigrants to Britain who took jobs as laborers and healthcare workers and did a lot for the country. And it shares the stories of 12 brave people who made those journeys. And it's a great book and a great read for children and their parents to learn about people of this era who thrived in Britain, but also faced a lot of challenges. So check it out. All right. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I look forward to seeing you again in the fall. I hope you got some great books that you can add to your book list or your child's book list or the book list of a child you love. And happy reading all summer long and beyond. And look forward to seeing you again in the fall. Till then, take care. Bye.